Let's get the show on the road. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming here this morning to join us for this Basecamp Manager workshop. I'm pleased to be here to train you and to help you get the most out of today's workshop. And I also want to give special recognition to those of us joining from Zoom. We have, I think, 4 to 5 people joining us on Zoom, so welcome. We have someone manning the chat, so if anytime you have a question or if maybe you can't hear me well, feel free to send a message to the chat. And I have Michael over here. Michael is manning the chat, and he can answer any questions or forward your questions to myself. The session on Zoom will be recorded so that after the session, everyone, whether you're attending live or you're attending via Zoom, you'll get a copy of the recording so you can review the presentation. Was that a clap? All right. The first time we're trying to do this, but we'll see how it goes in terms of the recording. So anyway, I want to first ask, how many of you are totally new to Basecamp Manager? Like, this is your first time? All right, welcome. So that's probably half of the room. So the other half, you're already experienced Basecamp Managers, right? And you probably have a little bit of holes in your knowledge, and that's why you're here. Well, let me tell you that you are all in the right room right now, especially for those who are here for the first time. You don't know what you're doing. Probably this is your first time as a VPE, and you absolutely don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're supposed to do. People are coming, your club members are coming up to you and say, what should I do? How do I get on Basecamp? And you're probably freaking out at that point. If that's you, don't worry, you're in the right place, because I'm here to help you really get a handle on Basecamp Manager. And my objective for this session is for all of you, for those who are new in particular, to come out of this workshop this morning and say, and you feel that you've got this. You can tell yourself that I've got this after this session, then I've done my job right. And if I haven't, then please stay beyond the session, and I'll still help you until you finally feel that way, until you get to that point when you say, yes, I can do this. I'm ready to serve my club members. And for those of you who are already experienced, you probably just need there's probably some gaps in your knowledge that you want to fill up. This is the time as well for me to help you fill in those gaps. So please make the most out of this session, make the most out of me to get the answers you need so you can go out this morning empowered already with the new knowledge you have. This is our agenda for today's workshop. So for those of you who've seen this before, I'm going to be talking about the Basecamp Manager basics. So the first part of this workshop is really just all about the basics. What is it all about? Who's involved? Where? When? Why are we using Basecamp Manager and all this stuff? Just the basics so we're all on the same page. We're all on the same kind of common understanding of what Basecamp Manager is for. And then I'll go into the email setup. There's a particular setup that's probably done already by most of you, but if you're pretty new to Basecamp Manager, you may not have done this in your club. So I just want to make sure that we're, again, all on the same page with the notification setup, because that's a critical piece of the puzzle. We'll talk about your responsibilities as Basecamp Managers, as well as how to submit educational awards. That's probably the most important things that you will be doing as Basecamp Managers. It's basically approving the levels of your members, as well as submitting educational awards. And then I'll be concluding by showing further resources for Basecamp. Now, of course, in between, we're going to have some demo time, or video time, as I call it, because our American friends have scheduled today of all days to schedule an outage in the system. So hopefully it ends early. We know it's down right now. I just checked this morning, so it is down, but it could end early. And if that's the case, then we'll let you know, and we'll let you all go into Basecamp and follow along with the training with me. But if that doesn't happen, I got videos, and then we'll use the videos for the explanation parts. All right, and that's it. We have a formal Q&A session at the very end, but I find that in workshops like these, if you have a question right there and then, which is relevant to what I'm talking about, then feel free to just raise your hands and ask for clarifications. That way, we don't leave it until the end and you probably forgot what the question was in the context. So feel free to just jump in. Okay, let's begin. Let's begin with the basics of Basecamp Manager. So what is Basecamp Manager? We're all familiar with a system called Basecamp. Basecamp is the platform, the software that delivers the Pathways educational program. And that's a program that we are all under in Toastmasters. Yes, there's some of us may still be in the traditional, but I'm focusing here on Pathways because that's the way forward. That's the future. And Basecamp Manager plays an integral part in that future. Without this, then the Pathways program won't work for your members. Simple as that. So that's what Basecamp Manager is. It's a secret, well, I shouldn't say secret, but it's more like a separate part of the system that is only accessible to Basecamp managers. Okay? Not everyone will have access to this. Only a few people will have access to this. And that's what we're going to be covering in this session. We're not going to be covering the regular Basecamp that all members go through. That's a little bit beyond the scope of this particular session. We are going to talk about the manager section. Now, I know that some of you have requested more tutorials about the Basecamp session that all members go through. So what I can offer you is just after the main session, just stick around and I'll help you a little bit with that part. But for the main session, it's really all about Basecamp Manager. So now that we know what is the Basecamp Manager, let's talk about the who. Who can access Basecamp? There's basically 3 people who can access it, and the primary one is the Vice President of Education. And that makes sense because that is the officer who's in charge of educating the members. And since Pathways is the educational program, therefore the primary key person would be the VPE. But to assist the VPE in this role is also the president and the secretary. So if the vice president of education, for whatever reason, is unable to fulfill his or her duties, then the president or the secretary can come in and fulfill those duties on their behalf. This is a team effort. And so while we might say that the VP is the primary point person, it's really a team effort. Each club situation is unique. We don't know what they are. So therefore, by having 3 people held accountable for this very particular important role, then it ensures a better chance of success for that club. So I would encourage you, if you are a secretary, if you are a president here right now, just a show of hands, how many are secretaries and presidents? Pretty good number, yeah. Fantastic. I'm just curious, how many are just VPEs? Less. It's actually less than the secretaries and presidents combined. So it's surprising, yeah? Or you're both. Oh, that's cool. We have people doubling up. A little bit of mixed identities. But this is essentially a team effort. So I would encourage you as the president, as the secretary, to work with your VPs, to help them be successful in carrying out their duties. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today applies to all of you. Like, you will all have the ability to do this. It's just a matter now of just talking amongst yourselves later on after this session and see, okay, how are we actually going to make this work in our club? So that's a discussion you'll have then. Yes?
Ray, can you change any of the other members or assistants?
No. That is set by Toastmaster International. It's really those 3 only. So they've been given the authority. And it makes sense because the president is the president responsible for the club, and the secretary can do administrative stuff, I suppose. That's why they probably thought that way. I'm not sure, but it's a better fit compared to giving it to the VPM or VPPR. Okay? So now we understand what and the who. So why? Why are we even bothering with this separate system? Why can't we just stick with the normal system, the normal one that everyone goes through? And the reason is essentially because of the check and balance. Did you know that Basecamp, the software, doesn't know when you actually gave a speech? Or even if you did give a speech. It doesn't know. It's not like there's a camera in your club and it's just recording you and sending that to Basecamp, to a system in the United States. There's no such thing. That's not happening. Okay, so the system absolutely doesn't know if you're even doing your speeches. And for some of you who are really adept at computer systems, there's actually a way to game it, to game the system. I can actually complete my projects in Basecamp without giving it in the club. Yeah, there is a way. Sure. There is a way. So how do we prevent that from happening? Well, I mean, what's the point if people just complete their projects in the system but not give it in the club? I mean, we're not fulfilling our mission then as Toastmasters International if we're just allowing members to do that. And yet at the same time, how do we cater for that fact that we have to record their progress in the system? How do we record that they've done the speeches if we don't have cameras and other sources of evidence? And that's why we have Basecamp Managers, is to provide a check and balance. Because as members progress, as members complete their projects in levels, then we have at that point a level completion process. So you think of your journey in one whole path divided into 5 levels. And as you complete each level, think of that as a checkpoint. That's a checkpoint for people to say, okay, have you really done your job? Have you really done the work that you're supposed to be doing in your projects? And that's when the Basecamp Manager checks. They're going to check, oh, okay, Emily, you've given me, oh, look at that. I'm sorry, I called you Emily, but Emmy, you've told me that you've completed level 1 of your path, which is maybe presentation mastery. And now I'm your Basecamp Manager. I need to check. I need to see if she really did her job. Because if I'm not there to check and make sure that she did her job, then she can just complete the path, and that's it. You know, there's no one verifying. So that's what the system's all about. It's verifying that they really did do the work. I'm going to show you later how that's done, but that's why we're doing it. And it's also another means to view people's progress. As I said, we can see where everyone is on their journey in a path or in multiple paths as well. So the when. When are we going to be using Basecamp Manager? Basecamp Manager is used when you see something like this. Now, have some of you seen this email? Yes? Very good. Excellent. Some of you who are new here, have you seen this email already? No? Then you can breathe a sigh of relief, because when you see something like this, that's when you know you have to do something. So I'm going to educate you today on what to do when you see something like this. But this is the step 1. This is the part where you have to go in and do something. This is an email from Basecamp. And the subject line, as you can see there, let me just bring this pointer. There you go. You can see there, a member submitted a level completion request. Okay, so that's the subject line. A member submitted a level completion request. Don't worry about this aspire. That's something I do in my free toast host, which may not be applicable to all of you. But what is applicable is the subject line starts with a member submitted a level completion request. Yes?
Does that just go to the BBE or does it go to all 3?
It goes to all 3. Depending on how you set up, that's what I'm going to talk about in the next session about the email setup. Depending on how that's set up, it should go through all 3. And I'm going to show you a technique, particularly if you're using free toast host. I'm going to show you how to ensure that it goes through all 3. But it should go through to all 3, okay? It's addressed to the Vice President of Education, so I hope presidents and secretaries are not offended by that. It's just a generic email sent by the system. Okay, so don't worry about that. It's just saying that these are the details here. I'll get to you in a minute. Let me just finish. So, and these are the details of the email that you should be interested in. So you'll see there the member, the name of your member, what level they've completed, okay, and when. Okay, so that's the important information. And you can see here some links here By clicking on those links, it'll take you straight into Basecamp Manager. You can log into the system and then fulfill the level completion request. I'll get to that in a minute, but this is the first step. Yes, you have a question.
For dual members, is it the same?
I'm sorry,
For dual members?
Dual members, yes. For dual members, it is the same thing. So if you're a member of, let's say I'm a member of Aspire, I'm also a member of Belmont Toastmasters, whether I do a project in one or the other, it doesn't matter. When I submit a level completion request, it goes to the Vice President of Education. Now, let me also give a further clarification to that. You have something called a home club, all right? So this is, in Basecamp, for those of us who are dual members, when we log into the system, we have the ability to change our home clubs. So in my case, I'm a member of four Toastmaster clubs, and I can choose which one. It doesn't matter, really, to be honest. It doesn't matter. Just choose one. But your choice of your home club determines which VPE gets this email. So if my home club is Aspire Toastmasters in Basecamp, and then I submit a level completion request, it's the VPE of Aspire Toastmasters that gets this, not Belmont Toastmasters, not DTM Pathways. It's these. Okay? Yes, Maury?
So you're a member of multiple clubs, and if you want your award to go to a different club than your home club?
Yes, that is possible. So I'll talk about that more in details, but yes, the rule is just because my VP in Aspire approves my level, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to give the award to Aspire. I can say, hey, I want to give this level completion to Belmont. Yes, Aspire will approve the completion so I can continue to the next level, but I'm going to give it, for DCP purposes, I'll give it to another club. So that's possible. Now, I know that might sound impractical, perhaps, for some people, because maybe for some, if they're approving the level completion, they automatically go right away and submit the award on behalf. And that's where you then have to do some communication. Be sure to communicate well your wishes to the person. Alternatively, if you want a more foolproof solution, you can change your home club. Like if I wanted to give my award to Belmont, I could change my home club to Belmont and then submit the award while my home club is Belmont. And therefore, the VPE of Belmont will receive it and not the VP of Aspire Toastmasters. Does that make sense? So that's another way to do it. So that's how you can manage it. But the rule essentially means is that just because they approve the level on your behalf, it doesn't mean they get the award. Okay?
It goes to the highest bidder.
It goes to the highest bidder. That's right, Rob. Absolutely. All right. So this is where it all begins. You'll get this email. And then when you wish to view a member's progress in Pathways, that's also when you use this. So you can go in anytime. Like right now during this training, you don't have anything to do, but you can just go in anytime. You can see where all the people are in their journey in Pathways. You can see who's in level 1, who's level 2, 3. You can see who's doing dynamic leadership or presentation masteries or engaging humor, whatever. You can see all of that in Pathways. I should note, however, that you'll only see them in the reports if you are their home club. This is for dual members. So let's say I'm in Aspire and Belmont, and I choose Aspire Toastmasters as my home club. So the Basecamp managers the Basecamp managers of Aspire can see me, but the Basecamp managers of Belmont cannot. That's another consideration. So if you're wondering later on when we look at the reports, and you're wondering, hey, this person is supposed to be in my club, why can't I see this person's journey? It's because that person is a dual member and didn't select your club as the home club. Okay?
So the second club, like Belmont, is actually helping that dual members to complete their level faster.
Absolutely, that's right. It's all about the members. So again, we're focusing on the members here, and members are free to join as many clubs as they want in order to progress their journey in Toastmasters faster. That's perfectly fine. That's always been the case, and we're supportive of that. All right. When would you just go into Basecamp Manager? I'll give you some scenarios also, which are really helpful. When you do your club success plan, how many here have you done already club success plans? Well done. That's very good. How many have yet to do the club success plan? Thank you for your honesty. I love that. I love honest people. Thank you for that. But I would suggest that, especially if you're a president, this needs to get done ASAP, okay? Because you're setting the tone for the rest of the year for your club, and that success plan is your roadmap. I use the Basecamp Manager reports in club success planning. So I know where people are, and therefore I know what awards my club is potentially able to achieve. Okay? That's really critical. And you can use then the reports to track how you are against those goals. If someone told me at the start of the year, I want to do a level 4, I'm going to complete level 4 and give all those awards. And they're at level 2 right now. So they tell me they're going to reach level 4, and therefore I'm going to get some awards for my club. So then I can track throughout the year, where's this person? If they're still languishing in level 2 by the time it's March, then it's kind of funny. Are they still going to reach level 4? Probably not. So it needs to use this so that you know how they're tracking throughout the year. Okay, we'll be looking at those reports later on, but that's one of the uses for your club success plan. It's also used for planning agendas. So I would recommend for all VPEs, when you're trying to figure out who should I put in for the agenda, what speech are they supposed to do? Well, you already know what that is, because you can just look at the reports in Basecamp. So you might end up shocking your member and saying, oh, you're supposed to give level 3 in a third project in level 2, and they might go, oh, how'd you know that? They're shocked. They think you're a mind reader, but it's not. It's because you can track their progress. And finally, you use for mentoring. Okay? These are the 3 cases when you would be going to Basecamp Managers and using the reports there, so that you can do club success plan, agenda planning, and mentoring. Okay, wouldn't it be helpful for mentors, do you think? How many here are mentors? Fantastic. Thank you for being mentors. You guys are playing a really important role in this club, in your clubs, because members in our clubs, they need mentors. They need people to guide them. And by knowing where they are in their Pathways journey, you have access to that rich information. You can then help them, guide them. Maybe they're struggling so much in their current path because it's the wrong path for them, right? So that's another thing. You don't have to always ask them for every single information. You have access to these kinds of information from the system, so then you know more and you can engage your members more with better information. All right, next slide. All right, where is Basecamp Manager? We'll get to that in a moment, if the system gets up. But if not, I'll show you in some screenshots how to get to Basecamp Manager. Let's talk about the email setups. Okay, this is really critical. And maybe for most of the clubs here, you've already done it right. So this is probably a part where you can probably skip over. But I'm going to tackle this for first timers and for those who probably feel like they don't have the right setup. Because this is really critical. Once you do get this setup right, then you never have to touch it again. Like when Pathways first rolled out, I set this one up in my home club Aspire, and I've never touched it since. This is around 2017, December. Never touched it since, just a one-time setup. And then when I joined Belmont Toastmasters, I did the same thing and never touched it in. It's been more than a year now. Okay? So if you do this right, you never have to touch it again. What are your options? Okay? Because this Remember, this is where that email you saw earlier, that's where this one is going to go to. Basecamp is going to send it to this email so that then it's supposed to go to the VPE, the president, and the secretary. So your first option is a group email. So some of you might be using Yahoo groups, or maybe in Gmail you have some groups there. It's essentially what we call a mailing list. And what happens is that you have multiple email addresses subscribed to that. So if you just send it to that one email address, everyone else who subscribed to it gets it. Does that make sense? People are familiar with group emails? Yeah? Yeah? So that's one way. And the second way is my favorite, and the one I would like to encourage you if you're using free Toast Host, is the free Toast Host version. And I'll tell you why in a moment that's really powerful, okay? And why I prefer that. And then once we decide on an option, I'll show you where to set it up in Club Central, because that's where the one-time setup that we're going to need to do, okay? Let me talk about free Toast Host, okay? I understand that there's going to be a session after this in the afternoon where Leonore is going to be talking more about free Toast Host. So if you're really interested in that, if you're inspired by this section of my presentation to attend that workshop, I highly encourage you to do so. She'll tell you even more about how to do the setup on the free Toast Host side. But I'm just going to show you the concept. Why does this work, and why is this my favorite? That server over there, and that icon there, just imagine that is the free Toast Host server. It's a system, okay? It's a free system that anyone can use in Toastmasters. So that's a computer there, a server. And what happens is that if it receives an email from Basecamp, okay? There's only one email from Basecamp. It's called basecamp@toastmasters or toastmasters.org, okay? When it receives an email from that address, the system is quite smart and then says, oh, it's from Basecamp. So automatically it's going to send it to the president, the vice president, and secretary. Automatically. And if it receives an email from anyone, like it's not from Basecamp, it's just anyone, like, hi, I'm interested in joining your club. When are you meeting? Tell me more details. Those kinds of emails. The system is smart enough to say, oh, it's not from Basecamp, so I'm going to send it to the VPM, the VPPR, and maybe the president. Isn't that pretty slick? Yeah? And you don't have to do any coding or logic there. It just does it automatically. And that's why it's my favorite. I just set it all up once. Don't have to touch it. Now this part over here, it will be covered more in detail in the workshop in the afternoon. So you can actually configure which officers receive that. So Leonore will take care of that. But the whole point of this slide that I'm trying to communicate to you is that the system is smart. Depending on who is sending the email, it redirects it automatically to the right set of people. Okay? Now, last thing I want to highlight is that you see that little thing over there, that address on top? Everyone who uses free Toast Host gets that email address. It's called contact dash, and then here's a club number. Maybe your club number is 1234. So contact dash 1234@toastmastersclubs.org. That's going to be there, and that's the magic email address. What we do with that email address is we're going to configure that in Toastmasters website. And that's the one-time configuration. Any emails that go to that email address will follow this particular logic in this slide. Does that make sense? All right, now I'm just going to show you where to configure that. All right, so here, as you notice, I'm in Club Central right now. I'm going to go to one of my clubs. Let's try Aspire Toastmasters. There we go. And then I'm going to go into, where's that one? Club contact, there we go. So you see here, all right? Let me just zoom in for you. So you can see here, in the club contact and meeting information, you have an email address, and that's the format I showed you a while ago. Contact, and then the club number is 133-4399@toastmastersclub.org. If you send an email right now to that email address, it will go to the Vice President Membership, Vice President Public Relations, and the President. If Basecamp sends an email to that address, it'll go to the President, the VP, and the Secretary. Pretty smart, right? Now, if you're using another option, such as a group email, well, potentially that could be a one-time config as well. Like you can put your Yahoo groups there or your Google in that email address and never touch it. The only thing you have to remember is that when you have changes of officers, then you'll have to fix it on the Yahoo group side or the Google's or wherever. Okay, that's beyond the scope of this workshop, but it'll be your responsibility to figure out how do we change those email addresses to update them and make sure that people are getting the right one. And also take note, if you're using a group email for this, then what happens when someone sees your club on Toastmasters website and they says, oh, I want to join your club. Can you tell me when the next thing? And that email is going to go to the Basecamp managers. Well, that's not the right people to send it to, right? So that's your little dilemma. There's only one email address in Toastmasters International which serves dual purposes. It's meant to be a contact us if people want to know more about your club, but it's also meant to fulfill the Basecamp Manager functionality. So that's why I favor the free Toast host version, because in that little scenario, it's smart enough for it to redirect the right emails to the right people. But if you're not using that solution, that approach, then it's up to you and your club members and maybe whoever's supporting your emails in your club, it's up to you to figure out, well, how do we make sure that the right emails are going to the right person? See? Show of hands, how many are using this right now? Just curious. Excellent. Well done. For all those who just raised their hands, congratulations, you don't have to do anything. You probably could have just slept through what I just talked about in the last 10 minutes, and that will be okay. You're good. You're good. For everyone else who didn't raise your hand, it might be a consideration. I'll leave it up to you. And if you are interested in exploring the free Toast host version, then again, we have a workshop this afternoon. Leonore's going to be talking about how to use free Toast host for your club. She'll show you how to set up everything on that side, so you're all sorted. Yes?
I'm using the free Toast version.
Yes?
Currently, the email is only to the president, so I should change it to contacts.
Absolutely. Yes, that's right. Good point. If that only says president, then only the president gets everything, which is not what you want. You want your club members to get it. So contact is the right one. Okay? Yes, questions?
Do you have to set the club officers on the free Toast website?
Yes, that is correct. So you do have to set it, and that is the part that you always have to set up every year. Okay? So you have to determine who's the new president, VP, and so forth. But I would argue that that's an easier process rather than subscribing and unsubscribing emails to an email group. And again, you have that dilemma in, well, you have one email address that serves dual functions. How do you know that? How can you automatically send the right emails to the right people? Because the last thing you want is forwarding emails all over the place. I know it's not such a big deal, but when we're all busy people, we all have stuff to do, and we're all trying to keep track of things, it becomes a little harder if you have to do that little extra step, when it can be easily done with this solution for you. Any questions on this? All good? Fantastic. Okay, so let's go back. We're making good time. Yes, we know this already. Yes. Sorry, all the animations is going. I can't progress it faster. You got good-looking members there. It's awesome. Responsibilities. Okay, let's get down now to the brass tacks. What is it really that is in your scope? What are you, as Basecamp managers, supposed to do? This is the meat, really, of the rest of the presentations going forward. Because we've already finished the basics. You now know the who, what, where, why, when, how. Well, the how is going to be a little later. But then you know the basics already. And now we're going to talk about now what is it that you need to do. Your main job as a Basecamp manager is to approve levels. Level completion requests. If you do not do this, then your members cannot proceed to the next level. They cannot give further speeches in the club, and therefore they're not progressing in their Toastmasters journey. So that is absolutely critical. Your number one role that you'll probably be doing more than 0.5%, probably like 80% of the time. Yes, question?
Where it says approve external training, does that mean a different club?
Yes. I'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, I'll talk about that. So after approved level completion request, the second is to view the pathway, adaptation, and membership progress. So this is going to be done through the reports. You're going to see who in your members haven't even signed up for Pathways. That's going to be a sticking point. They joined your club. They haven't even started in the system yet. So what's going on? And I know that Patricia last year has been kind of harping on that point, saying, why aren't we 100% complete, or why isn't our Pathways adaptation higher than it currently was? We have members joining into our clubs, but they're not in all the Pathways. So what's going on? So use the reports, use the system to tell you who is not yet in Pathways, and so you can then help them. You can then, maybe they just don't know how to do it. I actually had a member like that in one of my clubs, and she called me up and said, I'm not in the system. I haven't done it to Basecamp. I don't know what that is. And that's really quite a shock to hear that. It probably shows I haven't been doing my own job there and being more proactive and going out and reaching out to her. Because it's really us. We have that information. We should go out and be proactive and talk to the members and say, hi.
That's what the mentor's for.
That's the mentors for, yes. But the VPs can also do that, the club officers, because not all mentors are necessarily Basecamp managers. So it's really up to the Basecamp managers to work with your mentors to ensure that that information gets communicated. So you can better help your members. For those of us in Zoom, can I request, please mute your microphones unless you have a question to ask. Thank you. Okay, so where was I? Basecamp managers, mentors, yes. So view membership progress as well. So you can, again, as I mentioned earlier, you can see if people are at level 2, level 4, and you can use that as a measuring stick to your goals in your club succession plan. So we'll take a look at that in detail afterwards, but that's also what you do. And as I answered earlier, the external request is a mechanism by which members inform you that they are going to do a project in another club. Maybe they're doing it outside of Toastmasters, doing it in their work or their community, but that's a means to inform you that they are doing that. And in Basecamp Manager, you can then approve that or reject that and so forth. We'll show you about all of that in the later demos. Okay, what can you do? So now we can do what can you do in Basecamp Manager. And this is where we do our demo time. Or because of our American friends, thank you very much. It's not demo time, it's more of video time. Very good question. I was just about to mention that. How about we give our American friends time to finish their work and perhaps release the system to us after we have a 15-minute break. So let's give them a 15-minute break right now, and hopefully they can sort themselves out, and I can come back here and we can all go in together into Basecamp. Because it's better than doing videos, I can tell you that. So if there are not any more questions, do we have any questions in the chat?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment? All right. So let's take a 15-minute break at this point. We've finished all the theory part. So from here on, it's going to be all, hopefully, demos, all the fun parts. I'll see you all in 15 minutes. Thank you.